So next up, we have HITLAB's own Greg Bauer, Senior Fellow in Digital Health Innovation and the Director of the Delphi program and the Manager of HITLAB's Breakthrough Alliance and the Breakthrough One program. Greg, welcome to the show. How are you doing? And you're on mute.
Hey, Stan, thanks. Yep. Hey, Stan, thanks very much. Yeah,
looks like we lost
doing
Jerzy. Well, good. And Jerzy, welcome as well. And Greg, on this, I'll hand the virtual podium over to you.
Terrific. Thanks, Stan. Yeah, I'm really delighted to have a chat with Jerzy Wojcik. He's the Vice President of Regulatory and Quality Services at EdgeOne Medical, which for the past 10 years has been validating digital devices, software, and other products in the MedTech, pharma, and biotech sectors. And so before we get into our chat, maybe Jerzy, you might just provide a very brief overview of EdgeOne Medical and then your role as quality and regulatory VP.
Sure. Thanks, Greg. Hi, everybody. I'm Jerzy Wojcik, VP of Quality and Regulatory at EdgeOne. EdgeOne Medical is a contract development organization, and we are a consultancy, but we are also a testing laboratory. Our focus is on the development aspect of products. Just a quick question. I see my screen flickering. Is that happening for everyone? No? Okay.
I see your screen a little bit flicker, but I'm not seeing mine, so. Okay.
All right. And EdgeOne does not have any products of our own. We rely on our clients to come to us with products, and our specialty is helping them through their development process, helping them basically comply with the requirements and expectations of various regulatory agencies, and of course, primarily the FDA. My personal background, I've been in this industry for over 20 years. Last 8 years or so with EdgeOne Medical, previously with a number of big companies such as Baxter Healthcare, Deloitte & Touche, Avery Dennison. And in my various roles, I've focused on quality and regulatory aspects, and in particular on development. So from that perspective, and through EdgeOne and the various companies I've worked with, I have a broad experience of working with various products, product types, configurations. Basically, you name it, I've probably touched it in some sense. And from the perspective of today's chat, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the digital aspects, and in particular, things related to software and software validation. Yeah, and I'll hand it over to you, Greg.
Terrific. Thank you for that. As we were discussing yesterday and preparing for today, we talked a little bit about quality of data, and we thought we would sort of approach this from a fairly high level, because we know that in this audience today, there's people with varying levels of understanding and know-how. And so what we wanted to do is have a few basic things we wanted to at least address. One was, how do you define quality of data in the context of product testing and validation? How does that process work for you?
Sure. And maybe I'll start with just saying there are two perspectives to this. One is the quality of data after you've done testing, and then there's the quality of data to be used to perform testing. And starting with the first, the quality of data after testing, the easiest way to describe this is, can your test be reperformed, and can you come up with the same outcomes? And this isn't repeating it exactly the way that, basically like restarting it, but more so if you were to have someone else run the exact same evaluation, your test model, can they come up with the same results? So quality of data is reproducibility in a sense. But the other aspect is quality of data from an input perspective. So let's say, for example, you have an artificial intelligence aspect to your software, and you need some kind of data set in order to have the AI read and train and become its functioning algorithm. Quality of data relates to how do you know your data set is appropriate? How have you considered the requirements for the characteristics? A lot of factors fall into that, like let's say if you're looking at imaging for radiological imaging, what's the patient population you're pulling from? What are the sources of the imaging? Is there variation from one imaging equipment to another, and how do you accommodate or account for those? Timeliness of it. Obviously, imaging has improved, over the last decade. So, where do you stop including older images? All those types of considerations are very important when you're considering data quality. And then there's also this sort of a quick list of attributes that can be used. It's accuracy. So is it representative of a real world scenario? Does it fit in as a real piece of data? Completeness, obviously, can't be truncated, can't be corrupted. Consistency, so uniformity of data. As you move it from one system to another, you might have the same data but in different locations. Make sure there aren't any conflicts happening at that point. Validity, so data is collected according to a defined protocol. Just because you sort of, in a sense, populate a piece of metadata or a data element, the way you populate it has an influence on it, the way you collect it. Uniqueness, so you want to make sure there's no duplication. You want to make sure there's no overlapping of data. And then timeliness, as I spoke before, relevancy. Is it appropriate to include data from historical collections versus new, versus maybe you need to collect data all brand new. You can't rely on existing data. You have to, in a sense, create that data.
So it's interesting, Jerzy. It sounds to me like almost every device, every new project that you get involved in has its own footprint or fingerprint, in a way, of the way you manage and collect the data. I would imagine that there are a number of pitfalls that people could fall into in that process. Can you speak to what maybe one or two of those pitfalls might be, and then maybe how you recognize that going into the process so that you avoid that process altogether?
Sure. I think the number one pitfall is, and I'll refer to the product owner as the engineer in this case, just the owner of the technology. The number one pitfall is that they are too close to their product to really understand its full use capabilities. And this gets into, in a sense, like a use case. So where are the boundaries of how data is collected, how it's brought into the system, and how users of the outputs of the data will apply it? And really characterizing that and understanding it will help you better then understand what characteristics are important for me as inputs into my data validation.
That's really helpful to know. And given I guess when we chatted before, you mentioned that there's well over 100 different projects and devices and things that your organization has worked on in the last 10 years, so that you bring a really nice breadth and scope in your expertise. So, if people are trying to reach you around some of these issues, I'm sure that you all could provide some pretty good guidance for everybody there.
And seriously, with the amount of work you guys have done as well, Jerzy, over the last 20 years, it's phenomenal. Just having you on the program, thank you for that kind of detailed analysis and perspective, and obviously, Greg Bauer, thank you for tremendous Q&A here. Thank you both.
Yeah, a pleasure. Good to see you, Jerzy. Take care.
Take care.